Do you ever catch a smell or hear a sound and suddenly you're right back in grade school? The squeak of sneakers on a polished gym floor, the dusty smell of chalk, or the way the bell echoed through those long hallways. If you grew up in the 70s or 80s, school had its own little world. Some of it was fun, some of it a little scary, but all of it unforgettable. Today, we're going to rewind the clock and look at 10 school memories. Ah, yes, the king of the classroom. That bulky overhead projector with its bright light and humming fan. Teachers would slide a clear plastic sheet onto the glass and write on it with squeaky markers while the words glowed huge on the wall. Half the time, the writing was crooked and the teacher's hand would block the light, but there was something almost magical about it. By the 90s, computers and smartboards pushed it out. But for Gen X kids, nothing says class in session like that glowing beam. You knew it was going to be a good day when the lights went out and the teacher rolled in the projector. Film strips were slow, they were clunky, and you had to wait for the beep to turn the knob to the next slide. Sometimes the teacher let a student be in charge, which was the ultimate honor. Sure, they weren't thrilling, but sitting in the dark with your classmates, watching those pictures click by, it felt like a break. For some kids, it was the best part of the week. For others, pure terror. Lining up with those big red rubber balls that made that unforgettable thwomp sound when they hit you? Yeah, you remember. The game was fast, brutal, and a little unfair, but it was also exciting. Today, a lot of schools have banned it. But for Gen X, dodgeball was a test of courage and reflexes. Walking into school with your metal lunchbox was almost like showing off a piece of your personality. Maybe you had Star Wars, Scooby-Doo, or the $6 Million Man plastered on the front. Inside was a matching thermos, usually filled with soup or juice, with a plastic cup for a lid. They clanged around, got dented, and the paint would chip. But they had character. By the mid-80s, plastic replaced them. Every classroom had one, bolted to the wall. You'd stick your pencil in, turn the crank, and listen to that grinding sound echo through the room. Sometimes it gave you the perfect point, sometimes it just chewed up your pencil. Kids used any excuse to get up and sharpen, even if they didn't need to, just for a quick break. Those old sharpeners lasted forever. But eventually, quiet electric ones replaced them. Still, that crank sound, pure nostalgia. Ah, the smell. You know the one. Teachers would hand out fresh purple ink worksheets, still a little damp, and every kid would hold the page up to their nose for a quick sniff. Ditto machines made copies before photocopiers became common, and the ink would fade if you left it in the sun too long. But there was something about those warm, inky pages that felt special, like a secret club only school kids knew about. Recess was an adventure, and sometimes a dangerous one. The slides were made of hot metal that could burn your legs in the summer. The monkey bars were tall, the merry-go-round spun like rockets, and the ground was usually just concrete or gravel. But kids didn't care. We climbed, jumped, and held on for dear life. By the 90s, schools swapped them for safer plastic playgrounds. But Gen X kids grew up tough on those steel jungles. Before you could type a title into a search bar, you had to learn the Dewey Decimal System. The school library had rows of wooden drawers, each filled with tiny cards. If you wanted a book, you'd flip through until you found the right one, then track it down on the shelf. It took patience, but it made finding a book feel like a treasure hunt. Computers replaced them, but many Gen Xers can still hear. Every classroom had them, rolled up above the chalkboard. The teacher would give the string a yank, and the map would snap down with a satisfying thud. Sometimes it would shoot right back up again, which always got a laugh from the class. These maps made the world feel big and colorful, and they were a staple of geography lessons. Eventually, projectors and digital maps replaced them, but those Few sounds are as unforgettable as chalk screeching across a blackboard. It made everyone cringe, but at the same time, chalkboards were the heartbeat of the classroom. At the end of the day, the teacher would hand out eraser duty, and kids would get to clap the chalk-filled erasers outside, sending puffs of white dust into the air. Whiteboards came in during the 90s, but for Gen X, school today looks very different. But these little memories, overhead projectors, Ditto sheets, and clunky lunchboxes take us right back to a simpler time. For Gen X, they're more than just old-school supplies. They're pieces of childhood. So, which of these did you live through? And what would you add to the list? Share your memories in the comments. And if you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories from the past.